Hi everyone, it's Bev here, your mental health coach, providing tips, tools, techniques and advice, helping you to stay mentally strong in these difficult times and beyond. The topic for this video is suicide. Specifically, I want to offer you some advice as to what you can do if you suspect that someone close to you or around you is having suicidal thoughts. Now, suicide is one of those subjects that nobody wants to talk about. It is taboo. It has with it so much stigma, so many beliefs around it. And yet, we have to have that conversation. You see, before the virus, one person committed suicide across the globe every 40 seconds. Now, in 2020, the World Health Organization say that somebody commits suicide every 20 seconds. That's not on. That's not good enough. And if somebody is committing suicide every 20 seconds, what about those who are thinking about it or those who have a failed attempt of suicide? It seems crazy to me that we are all about health, trying to save lives at one end of society, while at the other end of society, it's hemorrhaging. People are dying without any help. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that you should look out for, some of the things that you can do. But before I do, I want to tell a story. So there I was, walking my dog, minding my own business, around 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Yeah, I know, but someone's got to do it. And I noticed that there was a man running up and down after his dog. His dog was having a great time, and this man was in clear distress. So I joined in and I started to run after the dog, and then another woman who often walks her dog joined in. So there we were, three of us, 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. And I noticed that something switched within him. While we were running up and down after the dog, he started to cry. And then the tears that were running down his face became ugly tears. So it got a little bit tense. Eventually, we caught the dog, and he told us a story of how he had fallen in love with a guy, and this guy had taken absolutely everything and left the dog. So as he was talking and we were sympathizing, suddenly he just said, "Take the dog, take the dog." The woman was trained in the Samaritan, so she picked up the signs immediately, as did I. And she said to the man, "Are you going to commit suicide?" And it disrupted him. You could see in his eyes, "Am I? Should I?" And I then said to him, "Take your dog. Take your dog." Now, I have never seen that man in the park again. I don't know if it worked. But I'm going to talk to you about the strategy that I use, that the woman used, which can help you if ever you get into a situation whereby you think this is serious, somebody is going to take their own life here. Now, before I talk about the things that you should look out for, the things that you could do, I want to talk to you about this notion. Hippocrates said, "Do no harm." Anybody in the medical profession or the therapeutic profession will know that they should do no harm. So please don't address the situation with words like "get over it," "pull yourself together." Everybody is suffering now. Look at that person down the road. They've had a worse time of it. Things could be worse, or even worse than that. Stop being so over dramatic. This is not going to help the situation. You may think that you're helping, but you're not, because what you're doing to the person is telling them that they're useless and everybody else is surviving, but not you. So it actually makes them feel worse. So here's what you do. If you notice that somebody is getting down, it might be that the person is withdrawn. The things that they didn't like, the things that they liked doing before, they don't do anymore. They've lost interest. They've lost their mojo, and they're becoming this kind of shrunken person. So the first thing is notice. Notice the difference. You can do this with friends and family and acquaintances. You have to notice. But in the park with this man, I had to go with my gut instinct. No, so when you're chasing after a dog, it is not normal to cry. Yeah, it's frustrating, but it's not normal to really be sobbing and be beside yourself. So notice the difference in behavior. Now, the next thing is to look at the evidence. So you might see that someone's off for a day or so, but if it's continued, you notice that they are off, then start looking for the evidence. Have they started to drink more? Are they more reckless? Driving faster, doing a little bit of crazy things, picking fights with people? Are they starting to give things away? Remember what the man said to me in the park? Take the dog. Because where they think they're going, they're not going to need any of, life's little comforts and possessions. Have they changed their will? Have they started talking about suicide and talking about ways to commit suicide? When they see stuff on TV and read about other incidents, do their ears prick up? They take note. So look for evidence. The next thing is to ask. I know it's the most frightening thing on the planet, but you've got to go for it. If you suspect it, it's better to be safe than to be sorry. I'm telling you. So as the woman in the park did, she said to the man, "You're not going home to commit suicide, are you?" Which disrupted his thought processes. And it's so hard to do, but you could do it in another way. Let me give you an example of a client of mine who's still alive, I should say. He, in the beginnings of our therapy together, was suicidal. And he recalls one day he was in the middle of nowhere and he had taken with him a couple of ties to put together. And he was examining the trees to look at what branch could support his body. He was going to hang himself. And out of nowhere, at that point, somebody came up to him and said, "Do you have the time, mate? What's the time?" And it broke his chain of thought. And he just could not look at trees and think about topping himself at that time. So if you can say something which will disrupt the thought patterns, not pull yourself together, but just something to distract that person. Ask something. What's the time? Where is the post office? Or indeed, if you're up for it, are you going to do harm to yourself? Now, if you do ask somebody, are you going to do harm to yourself? And they say, "I might do, I'm thinking about it, I'm down," they burst into tears, then do this. Make a bid with them. Make a contract with them. Get them to promise you that they're not going to do it until. So you're not going to do that until I have a chance to speak to you tomorrow. You're not going to do that until you see the doctor. Promise me that you will not do anything tonight. Get a good night's sleep and let's talk in the morning. Make a contract with that person. There's something about people that are going or wanting to meet their maker that they will keep their word. If they say that they are not going to do anything, chances are they don't do it. Ask. If you ask somebody, how are you doing? Are you okay? And they say, fine. Fine. They can say fine with a smile on their face. They can say fine going about their daily stuff and still be harboring dark, morbid thoughts. So when you say, how are you today? And they say fine, don't take fine for an answer. In what way are you fine? Talk to me about how fine you are, what you're doing. Tell me where you're going. Again, ask, listen, disrupt. Ask, listen, disrupt. Now, you're listening not to change their minds. That's the hope. But not to, okay, pull yourself together and stuff like that. You're listening for intensity. You're listening for repetition. You're listening for the tone, if it's just got no energy. You're listening for resolution. It's really important to understand that, because sometimes when somebody's made up their mind to end their lives, they are really happy. Once they've made that decision, I can tell you that one of my best friends, she committed suicide. And it was one of the worst days of my life to hear that she committed suicide, because a week before her death, she had called me. She'd called all her friends, basically to say goodbye. But we didn't know that. So sometimes when people have made up their mind, they are their best self. So you're listening for what they don't say. They might say to you, I'm fine. Go out and get me a bottle of wine. Let's celebrate. No, come out and let's get it together. Do not leave them on their own. When you follow your guts, when you suspect that something's not right. Now, you're not a professional, so stay in your lane. It is really important to be that comforting shoulder to lean on. However, if you suspect that someone is suicidal, go with them to the doctor. Take them to the doctor, because people that are suicidal will say, yeah, I'm going tomorrow, I'm going the next day, and tomorrow never comes. So go with them to the doctor. It is also important to know that just because somebody is on antidepressants doesn't mean that they don't have suicidal thoughts. In fact, if you were to read the leaflet that comes with antidepressants, the side effects are like that. It goes on. And one of the side effects of taking an antidepressant is that you may have suicidal thoughts or suicidal tendencies. You might develop suicidal tendencies because in the first instance, while people are taking antidepressants, this is the small print, it motivates you not to get better, but it motivates you, or the suicide person, to carry out their morbid thoughts, to take it to the next level. So help the person, stay with the person, notice. Notice is the first port of call. Follow your gut instinct. Look for evidence to see if there's anything going on. Ask, what are you going to do to yourself? Are you fine? Tell me how you're fine. Listen to what they say. And if you're outside of your comfort zone, then get help. Get help. In fact, get help. Now, when I said to the man in the park, take your dog, and he took the dog, I knew that he was going to go for life. Because suicidals, suicides, when they get into themselves and there's nothing to live for, then they may take their own life. But when you have to feed a pet, walk a pet, look after a pet, it could be plants, it could be something other than yourself, then that person has a chance to fight another day. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Anne Franks, and she says, "Dead people get more flowers than the living because regret is stronger than gratitude." Stay safe. Until next time.